Hi, my name is Nicholas Holzweiss, and my documentary was Touching the Void, which was made in 2003. Some of the key terms I got from the documentary was alpine style climbing, which is packing everything in a single pack, including food and water, and climbing the mountain in a single push. No base camp or pre-planned stop to stop at. Powder snow and anchoring, when so much snow builds up that when you anchor your pick or whatever you might be using, you are not that stable, and you could slide around, you could fall. Backstep, which they normally use for going down, but it could be used for going up too, is using the outside edge of your foot to stand on a hold. A belay, the techniques used by a belayer to hold a rope in order to arrest a falling climber, and a crevice, which this one was really important in the documentary, a deep open crack, especially one in a glacier. So, what is Touching the Void documentary? Well, Touching the Void documentary was made in 2003 and is about two guys, a guy named Joe Simpson and a guy named Jason Yates, and their journey in the Celia Grande Mountains in Peru. The journey starts off great with almost no problems going up the mountain. They eventually get to the top and they have to make a decision on where to go from there and like what path to take down to the bottom. So they pick a path which they thought was going to be the easiest, but they were mistaken. Because of storms, it made the way day the way down miserable. The first day going down they had lost their gas, which meant they could not melt snow to get water, which from now on until they got back to base camp, they were dehydrated, and this was really bad because you don't know what could happen if you're dehydrated. You could hallucinate, you could do a lot of different things. And then the second day, this one really cracked down as one of the worst. Joe had broken his leg, and he thought he was dead, but Simon was determined to carry him back down to base camp to get help. So Simon had to put two 150-foot ropes together and lower Joe down in front of him. Because of more storms and Simon going really fast, Joe got stuck on a cliff, but Simon did not know it was happening and was carrying his body weight for a long time. After a while, Simon thought Joe was dead, so he took a knife and cut the rope, which sent Joe plunging into the ground from 150 feet. Joe miraculously survived the fall and tried to escape the crevice he had just got put in. Simon eventually made it back down and thought that he killed Joe, so he waited a couple days, and this gave time for Joe to actually make it back safely. With the broken leg, Joe went through an extra 3 to almost 4 days of descending, almost a mile to 2 miles, which is crazy, only using one leg and his arms. His other leg was broken, so he was pretty much crawling a mile to 2 miles down, which was really impressive, and he fought to save his life. So the central questions I thought of is is it worth it to go on such a sporadic trip? Like, why were they doing it? What caused them? What motivated them? Um, like, why were they going without guides? Because it was just them two going all the way up and then all the way down, which could be really dangerous. And then number two, would you choose to cut the rope on your partner in order to save your own life? This one is a difficult question because Simon unfortunately had to do it. He thought he killed Joe, but Joe miraculously survived. Um, but to save his own life, he had to do it. And then three, would you push yourself to immense amounts to be able to survive, as Joe did? Um, it, this one was just a clear one to me to put in because Joe just went through so much just so he could survive. He went through 3 to 4 extra days of climbing down, pretty much crawling down, and it was pretty impressive. So, what are the alternate views? So, there was people in the base camp when they got news of what had happened on the mountain. Like, what were they thinking of it, and like what were their views of it? Number two, guides' views on the route down that Joe and Simon had taken. I feel like If guides were with them, they would have taken a different route and the situation would have been avoided. But I want to know their thoughts on why they think Joe and Simon took it. And then three, what the world thought of the struggles that Joe and Simon went through. I think that this one would have been good because it could have gotten a bunch of opinions out of why they should or shouldn't have done it, and it could be a good learning lesson for those in the future. So, how does this film influence the lives of everyday people? I think it affects people that are not professional athletes because it shows that going without the slightest plan could be detrimental to the environment and especially your own life. Number two, it could show the meaning of having guides on a trip and what they can do for you if you are in trouble. And number three, it could show the different things that might go wrong on a trip of this magnitude and what to prevent it from happening again. How is the subject oriented to the nature around them? So uh, they had a lot of times when they said a lot of things about nature. I had to cut some of it out, but Simon said at the top that he felt like he belonged there. During the climb down, before anything bad had happened, Joe said that he really loved his adventure to the top and felt that he had had a good experience, although painful, getting up there. And then during the documentary, both of them explained the situations they were in with great detail to what nature was doing, like they could recount the second to what happened, which was really impressive to me. Like they knew what was happening 24/7, 365. What makes the documentary interesting? It goes through a lot of backstory of why Joe and Simon did what they did. It shows different things they could have done in a better way. Like, if could they have gone down this route? Could they have stopped when it was storming? Could they have brought more gas? Stuff like that. And the documentary shows how they both ended up surviving something that has very, very low survival rate, which I found very impressive and interesting because they were both there on the documentary explaining what happened. And something like that, normally you would only have one person, which was just really impressive to me. And then why do we care? We care because it is the human lives of two people, and since they got out of it alive, then it is a good idea to tell the story so that it could not happen again. So two lives could affect multiple lives. If this story hadn't come out, those two people could turn into 10, could turn into 15, 20, 100. You never know, and that's why we care. That's why we do stuff about it. And do I want to be like the subjects of the documentary? I'd have to say no, because of the harsh environments they went through and tough times. I would not get very far if I were Joe, and I would not try that hard to survive because of the position Joe was in. He really tried his best to survive, and it worked. I really wouldn't want to be in Simon's shoes either because I don't want to make a decision of saving my own life and cutting the rope and killing another person. That's just not a decision I'm willing to make. So this is my presentation on Touching the Void, the documentary of 2003. And yeah.